Young. Although First Nations people have lived in Prince Edward County for more than 3,000 years, one of the first white men to settle in the area was Colonel Henry Young. He was born in 1737 in New York State. At the age of 18, Henry joined the New York provincial forces and fought in many battles. He was discharged from the army in 1760 and returned to farming in New York. He married Maria Lidger and they had 2 sons and 5 daughters. At age 25, Henry Young joined the army again. When the American Revolution started, he joined Loyalist forces gathering in Quebec. They performed many difficult tasks, such as clearing trees, building bridges, and hauling boats over land. Eventually, Young escaped to Canada and joined the King's Royal Regiment of New York. In 1780, Henry Young was sent by boat to Kingston with a detachment of troops. He was the first Loyalist to step ashore, and he spent 3 years helping build the fort on Carleton Island. While he was away, his home in New York was raided by the rebels. The Bible containing the family's record was carried off, and after that, his children could never be certain of how old they were. During the French and Indian Revolutionary Wars, Henry fought in 17 battles and was wounded only once in the right hand. The rest of Colonel Young's family stayed in New York until the wars were over. Henry's wife Maria was forced by the rebels to leave their home, and she and her children stayed with her father, who lived nearby. Henry's oldest son, Daniel, a teenager, ran away from his grandfather's home to join his father. Sometime in 1782, Daniel reached his father at Oswego, New York, and joined the King's Royal Regiment of New York as well. When peace was declared in 1784, Henry Young received a grant of 2,000 acres of land in Upper Canada, which is what is now Ontario. Accompanied by a fellow officer, they paddled a canoe up Picton Bay, searching for a good place to homestead. Leaving their canoe behind, they spent several days exploring the beaches and forests of Prince Edward County, walking as far as the place where Wellington stands today, finding the wood full of deer and other game, and lakes filled with fish of all kinds. Young chose to settle on the west side of East Lake. Meanwhile, the rest of the Young family were still living in New Brunswick, some of the first Loyalists to leave New York State. Henry sent a letter to St. John's for his second son to join in Upper Canada. The following September, Henry got a large canoe, loaded it with supplies, and he and his 2 sons paddled up Picton Bay and landed at the same place. They portaged overland to the site he found on East Lake. Henry then left his 2 sons to spend the winter in their new wilderness home in a crude lodge house while he returned to Kingston. The next summer, Henry and his sons built a more substantial log house, and in October 1784, the whole family was together again in their new home, becoming the very first white settlers in Athol Township. In May 1812, Henry Young, now 75 years old, purchased a large amount of lumber and timber with a major building project in mind. By 1815, he had constructed a fine frame house on the north side of East Lake. This house remained in the Young family for nearly 100 years. In 1912, it sold to the Woodward family, who owned it for more than another century. Colonel Young died at East Lake in 1820 at the age of 83. There is a marker there for him in the Cherry Valley Cemetery, and many of his descendants are also buried in that cemetery. The house that he built is still standing today and is one of the county's oldest buildings.